I didn't make it till I was 30. I didn't have a pot to piss in until I was 30. So it's like persistence, manifestation, and like all the little tricks you learn on those years where you're struggling, they all, when it hits and things work out, that's like your ammo and your armor and like all the shit that makes you belong there. Because I wouldn't have had such a long run. I wouldn't have hit 1 billion views if I didn't like persevere for 10 years to get there.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to do all the shit and like and struggle and wait for it to pay off.
Thanks for making the time to come on the show.
No problem, dude. You pop up all the time. I always see it. I'm like, I should be doing more what you do, and I never do.
What do you mean? Just reaching out to people?
Yeah, like it's great. I think it's like Canadian talents and talking, like just hearing it out from the horse's mouth is, obviously I'm going into like the backstory, but no, I see what you're doing. I see the hustle.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. It is definitely a hustle. And I'm just like, I started the podcast and started interviewing, like mostly Canadian comics that I know. And I know that like a lot of them weren't going to necessarily pull in a ton of views because these are people that have been working at their craft for maybe 10, 15 years, whatever it is. Right. So I'm like, but it's a long game thing where I'm like, I'm putting my investment in Google back in, 2009, knowing that it's going to go to a higher place later on. Like I'm putting that faith in these people and also showing the little bit of audience that I've gathered from working on Inform Overload to be like, hey, check out these comics. So you might not know they're also from Canada. And that was kind of like the motivation for me behind it.
Yeah, no, I love it. There's definitely a missing piece. Obviously, being Canadian entertainers, it just like how has this country not produced a Jake Paul or like just someone
Exactly. Yeah.
who sticks around and does something big, like a you or a me. Someone has to like invest heavily to like raise this whole economy up. But I think,
Yeah.
like you say, it's now that the path has been paved, it'll come in the coming years.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully it'll inspire someone else. They'll come along and they'll do a better way than the way I'm doing it and blow up and put more smoke on everybody else. But for those listening that might not know, this is Michael McCrudden from before they were famous. I don't know if Mike, you want to give like a small backstory on yourself of how you got to this point.
Oh God. Yeah, well, you replaced me at Inform Overload. So I
Great.
felt like when I started YouTube, I had already lived a 10-year career in entertainment from like university, college, child actor, modeling, doing skits and pranks when YouTube was laughable. Like I'd already been like hustling. I'd done all the auditions and made my own TV shows. And I was just figuring out like, when is this all going to click? And I thought it would be at MTV Canada or Much Music. And that wasn't the case. And then learning from Landon, I saw like, how is this guy buying a condo and moving his life forward? And then as soon as I kind of tapped into like YouTube actually pays and it's consistent, that it just that before they're famous, I don't think I've had a day off since.
Wow. But I mean, like at least you're doing something that you like care about and you are in control of its growth. You can maintain it at where you're at now, or you can push it in another direction and make it bigger than it is. Like it's a beautiful thing that YouTube has offered to so many people, is like this way out of that rat race. You feel like you're working more, but you're like, at least it's on shit that I like.
Oh my God, with the
Yeah.
years pre YouTube is like so defeating because you're
Well,
waiting on an audition, you're waiting for them to get back to you about your treatment. There's like, what are you gonna do? More school? I guess like the comedy clubs offer an outlet, but YouTube, you can probably make more money than I don't know what they pay comedians, but if you get a viral video, it could say you pay your rent,
bro, it's the same as it was in like the 80s pretty much, because like I don't know, I just started running my own comedy shows again here in Ottawa, and I'm like, I had it in my head like I'm gonna pay the comedians super well. Well, after you do the VIP expenses to pay for the venue, and after you work out what the equipment's going to cost you, and if you had to pay someone to watch the door for you, and then you're like, okay, how much do I get paid for my involvement in this in whatever capacity? Then you look at what's left and you're like, oh, like I might lose on this show if I don't move to like a bigger place or charge more for the tickets, but then you're putting that money on the customer. Like it's a hard game for sure. And I think social media is kind of, the more that people embrace it, I think it's going to make pursuing something like stand up a lot easier because you have that, like you said, constant stream of income. What was the shittiest job that you had before going all in on YouTube?
Before that, I want to add to your point. Like, I feel like entertainers at heart, like us, shouldn't run the business
No,
because
I hate it. I hate it, bro.
I did the same thing, and I was like, you're getting $100 a video, and then I like, all right, we're doing 30 videos this week, and then I'm like, wait, no one watched any of them because it wasn't me, and
Yeah,
like
like,
I'm paying
yeah,
a respectable wage, but it's not sustainable.
it's not sustainable at all. It sucks because you want to give them more, but you're like, I literally can't. Like,
My oh buddy, I've had so many shitty jobs. I was really working class kind of guy. My dad's an electrician. I remember like working for land and I still would have to go to like shitty job sites on the weekend and pull cables with my old man. Because if you're not doing your own thing, your family's like, you got to contribute, right?
yeah.
So that to like, I'm a Swiss Chalet and oh, fuck. I delivered Red Bull my first year out of college.
Okay, not bad gig.
And they're like, we're going to give you 30 grand a year. I'm like, that sounds great. And they're like, well, you're going to work 30 hours a fucking day. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. They just paid you in Red Bull. Everyone thought
Oh,
you were
yeah.
on Coke.
I almost had a heart attack one shift. I was doing the Red Bull and I was doing
Yeah.
the oxy cut to shed some pounds. And I'm like,
Oh, lovely.
oh, too much, too much.
Where did the idea come from for before they were famous? And talk me through, because I've had this with videos where I have this I've done it a couple times where I do this run of kind of like here's what's happening in the news. It's a little similar to Inform Overload, just because I'm like, well, people know me for that. It gets views brought to my channel, more people to come listen to my podcast, win-win, right? But I'll have this moment where I script out a whole video, I film the video, I edit the video, and then I go, should I even post this? And then I post it and it ends up being the best video on the channel. Like, was there a moment where you're like, should I start this channel? And then what was the thing that made you just do it?
Yeah. And no shade to Inform Overload because I would never have got on YouTube if I didn't. I think it was like 3 years full time on that show. And I didn't even Dave, there was another guy on it named Dave, and like people seemed to really like him. He was super wacky. And then there was a girl. I don't know if she was, but I didn't feel like the star of the show. But I was like, okay, I wouldn't watch this. Like I wasn't into like woman gives birth to 10 children
That's what I
stuff.
felt, bro, for 2.5 years.
Yeah. So I'd be like, well, what am I into? And what would
Mhm.
I watch? And obviously I took like huge inspiration from Entertainment Tonight and E-Talk and all those Canadian shows that we grew up on. And essentially it's like, okay, if I can't get access to celebrities and I care about the entertainment industry, I would talk about like how did they find success? And it's just so relatable and such like like a Wikipedia is if you want to know how old someone is, you do that. And then before
Mhm.
they're famous, it was just like such a no-brainer. I have the trademark to it now. So just no one had used that obvious
Which is
slogan.
great. It's such a good SEO. Like, who was
Yeah.
so and so before they were famous? Like, it's great branding for sure.
Famous in there,
Yeah.
before in there. So it tackled it twice. And the first few ones that I know I did in my mom's basement, and it was just people I really cared about, like Russell Brand, Eminem, and the guy who created the show Survivor, because I love Survivor. And like Russell Peters, Canadian comic, was one. So that was it. I like parked them there, and I didn't really think much about it. And like one day, I think YouTube's like, you made $100, and I told Landon, and like Landon's like, you made $100 on your own. I'm like, yeah. He's like, never look back. And he
No.
pushed me. he pushed me to like, if you the first $100 is the hardest, if you can do that. And I think the next one was 300, and then it quickly went into the thousands. And then like boom, I had like a December payout in 2015 that squashed all my debts and set me
Amazing.
up for it was like yeah, it was like 86 grand, like changed my
Wow.
life.
Dude, I started a faceless channel and I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever done. Like it monetized in 2 months and I was like, this is fucking fantastic. So I'm just waiting for that to keep creeping up and then it's bye-bye to everything else for sure. I can actually do more. I'll use the time to do more podcasts that aren't paying anything at the moment, you know? It's like one thing just has to pay me to do the other thing, basically. Was there
No,
anything I was going to
I'm
ask
jealous,
you? You're
jealous
jealous
of the
what?
faith,
Oh
jealous of the
yeah.
faith. It's yeah.
It's I can tell you like off air, but it's like it was just something that just like clicked in my head of like another thing that like was just like an open niche that nobody was really like tapping into currently, and I just like went for it, and it just happened to pick up like right away. I was like,
Good for you.
oh man. Was there anything in your research of any of these celebrities that like kind of shocked you, or like something that you really didn't know about that sort of sticks with you?
Yeah, like in the early years, it was so weird, right? 'Cause then the show got really big and everyone was wanted to be on it. And the internet wasn't like I started to realize, wow, I'm burning through all the available information. If they were in the local news, it was typically mug shots.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm dealing with American rappers and questionable characters, and those are the people that want to be on the show. And then like influencers, like Sniper Wolf had a mugshot. I'm like, what am I doing here? So it became, and then you have to have a little bit of controversy, like the thumbnails. Where are they now after they're famous? Like, you have to if you want to keep ramping up that algorithm, you've kind of got to step on some toes. So I'm sure. Like I remember exposing that little Yachty, what used to be like a credit card thief, and like I found that researching like that
Wow.
all there was his mugshot for like before he was
Yeah,
famous.
yeah.
So there was a lot of that stuff in the early years when there wasn't
I
so much info.
I didn't even really think or put that together that like within your research you might like it's just part of the story, but like inadvertently bring up something that they themselves have forgotten about, or like, oh, I hope no one now that I'm famous, I hope no one, pulls up that tweet from 2007 or whatever the fuck.
Bro, that's the magic to the show.
Yeah, dude, the internet never forgets. That's what I'll say to any up and coming wannabe celebrity influencers. Just go back through your archives because before they were famous, we'll find it.
If I was an asshole, dude, I probably would have. Well, I would
You
have
need
had
to do
you
the
guys.
faceless channel version of this show where you can just mask your voices and today on.
Yeah, yeah. And that will be when I was like killing it. There was no agents paying attention to the YouTube. There was
Oh
no
yeah.
PR. No one was online. So it was like a free for all, like Cardi B. And like she was like, I was a stripper. So there was no one, she's not gonna get upset. But people that were trying to pretend they weren't, I
Mm.
had I was telling I could tell it as I wanted to. I was a really nice guy about it, you know?
Well, that's the Canadian coming out in you for sure.
Yeah.
There was another thing. What was the other thing I was going to ask you about? Oh, is there anyone that's like that's reached out to be on the show that like got you excited? Like that you were a genuine fan of?
Well, it starts to get it. I was really unaware of how big it was. I think like again, I'm Landon and me went to a Raptors game and Drake stared me down, and I'm sure by then I had done videos on his baby mama
Oh
and
no.
his Pusha T, So Drake gave me some cut eye, and me and Landon were
That's
like,
pretty
yo,
cool. I think
I
Drake's
like he
fucking
knows who I am, bro.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
So
shit.
like but like, dude, that's like I'm telling negatives. There's been so much love,
Yeah.
like huge people. Like literally everyone knows who I am and what the show is. And like French Montana would be tweeting about me, and like Tory Lane's like, yo, this guy, F with this guy. It was like
Yeah.
surreal to me.
Yeah, that is got to be pretty surreal. And especially to be on the end that you're in, though, is very unique of like you're you're known for like, doing the research on these people and, sharing some more backstory of people that network shows aren't going to do like a backstory on too, but it can be confrontational. I felt that too when I was doing Inform Overload, and I'm sure you got this where you were doing like, you do a story on an influencer and then that influencer sees the story. Like you were literally on Dr. Phil to talk about a video that you had, or like a couple that you had been making videos about. Like, what did that feel like to be sitting in that live studio audience and you're now face to face with these people that you've been making videos about? Like, is part of you kind of like, I hope I got my speech together, like what I'm gonna say, because they were just yelling, like they were at 11 when Phil introduced you to them.
Yeah, me and my friends were laughing about that. We pulled up a clip a couple months ago, and it's like 10 years ago now. But yeah, that when your Dr. Phil show calls you, and I'm like, what? We're gonna fly you out to LA. I don't think I'd been at that point. So yes, I'll go. But then yeah, they kind of set it up to make me like this villainous
Yeah,
guest. And
yeah.
I'm like the sweetest guy sitting front row going, what the hell is this? So I learned a lot that like everything's for drama and ratings, and like Dr. Phil show looks so squeaky clean, but they bring on like Jack Doherty and like all this trash, really,
Yeah.
that they keep moms at home watching, just like we do, making our YouTube videos. What appeals to the masses or people in trailer parks out in Wyoming, isn't always the stuff you want to be doing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man. I like I don't know. I couldn't do that. Every time I was doing it, I was like, "Who? I hope they don't see this because I don't want to deal with that confrontation." You were like perfectly calm, perfectly reasonable with your approach. They're like, "You call this." You're like, "I never said that. I actually never said that." Like, didn't get defensive
Right.
in the slightest. Like, yeah, it was so
But
good.
if I were a different type of person, I would have been
Yeah.
like, this is the moment to become Cash Me Outside
Oh,
famous.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think sometimes class almost stumps you.
True. Like if you
Uh,
had stood up, like ripped open the top button of your shirt and threw your suit jacket on the ground, like that clip goes viral. You know what I mean?
exactly.
A little
And
pointing and yelling for the thumbnail.
I think Logan Paul and Jake Paul were the type of guys who would do that.
Oh yeah, they would have just done that immediately, gotten in their faces, threw a chair or something, you know?
Yeah.
Your word for the episode was moose. What made you pick
Yeah.
the word moose?
I got a lot of moose ornaments around the house. It's kind of like a family nickname now.
Okay.
Just because I'm like huge. I'm like 6'4", 280.
You look like if you were in a frat boy movie, your name would be Moose.
Right? I'm definitely pushing that narrative. But the Canadian thing,
Yeah.
uh, beautiful creature. So just a nickname. I earned it on like a radio show, but it just stuck whenever someone's like, my wife, take out the trash. And it was like, oh, you've woken the moose. Like it just makes so much sense.
That's hilarious. I love that. I also want to talk about this. I noticed on your IMDb Dumb and Dumber 2 back in 2014. What was
Yeah.
this? Ken conference attendee. And then fast forward, you're buying the heart-shaped tub from Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
What is the obsession with Dumb and Dumber and how did you acquire this tub? I need the backstory.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I didn't. The first before they were famous I ever made was Jim Carrey. I was talking about
Okay.
the subsequent ones that came after. But yeah, I've always like been pretty vocal about my lifelong obsession about Jim Carrey. Kind of like was a father figure for me, like wanting to be in the arts and entertainment. He's from Canada. He wasn't for money. The best movies of my childhood. So I like just idolized the guy. And like following him. And my mom would buy tabloids. I don't want to watch, but I'd read anything with Jim Carrey. Who's he dating? What's he up to? Where's he live?
Yeah.
So he kind of like, there's a lot of inspiration there into the guy I became growing up with him and like the highest paid comedian and all that. And I never thought I'd be I would never wanted to be a comedian because I knew how grueling that journey is. So I was like, all right, I'll be a funny host. So it just like inspired my whole persona. So then I just because of that, like when no, you get what you manifest. So many Jim, like he knows who I am without a doubt. Um, so many things have come my way. Like his ex-wife's son was my intern for like 6 months. I got into the movie. I've interviewed his sister. Um, and then I bought the hot tub. So yeah, like getting into the movie was like I won a Vine competition.
Oh, cool.
We did a parody, and the director of Dumb and Dumber, I was like me and another guy from Inform Overload were the finalists, and they picked us to come out. Like if you could pay your own way to get here, we'll put you in the movie. So we did our own Dumb and Dumber road trip and got to Atlanta for the filming, and they put us out for a couple days, and I got to talk to Jim and watch him in action and everything like that.
That's sick.
They paid us even. That was pretty cool. And then when I finally, like my wife and me got engaged, so she got the wedding ring. And then I'm like, with all this YouTube fame and fortune, I never really balled out on much. So I saw this hot tub, and they say it's the one from the movie.
They're shipping out 200 more of them. It's like those frames that you see at grocery stores.
I know. I'm starting to wonder, right? I'm like, how do I know it's the one?
Yeah, no, I bet it is.
It was an elderly couple on Vancouver Island. It was, I don't know. They had some.
How did you get it? Did you bring it on a truck? How did you get it from Vancouver Island to Ontario?
Yeah, it got ferried and trained, and it took a while to come.
Jeez, it took a lot to come.
But Jim's coming to Hamilton in February for the comedy awards, so hopefully I can get him back in the tub.
Yeah, that would be an amazing photo. If you pulled up outside the venue with the tub and filmed the whole thing, the whole like getting the tub to the outside of the venue, and then just sit out there with signs that says Jim, come sit in the tub. That seems like wacky enough that he would see that and go, well, all righty then.
Yeah. I feel like there's
Hop right in.
There's a way to buy the Shaggin' Wagon. They restored it for the sequel. No one is as obsessed as me as this movie. I've got to figure out where to find that and buy that.
Bro, you know what you could do? Keep putting this stuff. Well, if you got room in your house, put it in your house. But I was going to say, if you acquire enough things from this movie, there's no reason why you couldn't just open up like a pop-up shop downtown where you just lease, like Spirit Halloween does, just lease out a little space and put all the things in there, and people can come in, take photos with them. You charge them $5, $10, whatever it is to get in, and then they post about it. More people come. People make TikToks about it. More people come because they do that stuff with Seinfeld all the time. People will just do random. They recreate the cafe or whatever, charge people to go in.
That's brilliant.
I'm always thinking about business. I get too off. But that, I mean, if you got the stuff and you could literally be like, this is the stuff. Like I acquired it from the movie. This isn't like a Hollywood remake.
Yeah. No, I love it. I was thinking about doing it in my garage. Like one will be the toilet scene, one's the hot tub.
Start there. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Well,
Saves you on the rent.
But I don't know if the movie's getting outdated. Like you have to be almost 40 now to appreciate it.
But here's the thing. I think the people that would appreciate it are the people that would spend the money and have the money to spend to go see it, because they're like, this is my childhood. Let me go spend money to witness the, sit in the tub, take a picture in the tub or whatever.
Yeah.
I think
I feel like every guy our age loves Jim Carrey somehow,
100%. Yeah. They would, even if they haven't seen the movie, they'd fake it just to say that they sat in Jim Carrey's tub. Yeah. Mike, if you could, this is another question that I always ask on the podcast, is if you could make a phone call to 15-year-old Mike, give him a piece of advice based on what you know now, knowing it won't affect your current timeline whatsoever. So no winning lottery numbers or anything like that, but some real advice, like thinking about who you were, what you were doing at 15, where your head was at. What's something that older Mike could tell younger Mike?
15, No, I think at 17 I was a troublemaker. So 15 I was just trying to figure out who I was. Grade 9, I guess, right? Um, just stick with it, kid. Like I loved the school plays, I loved the art classes, I loved all these little things. And like your friend who's gonna become an engineer is gonna have a much easier road than you, right? Or like the guy
Mm.
getting just loves business. His dad owns a few McDonald's, whatever. I don't know. Like the artsy thing's always a big gamble, and it's if you don't make a living off of it, you often like live a life of failure where you got to work at fucking Zellers. Like it's make or break. So I just said Zellers because I don't want to offend anyone, obviously.
This is Sears. What are you working, Sears?
Yeah. So yeah, man, like there's many year. I didn't make it till I was 30. I didn't have a pot to piss in until I was 30. So it's like persistence, manifestation, and like all the little tricks you learn on those years where you're struggling, they all, when it hits and things work out, that's like your ammo and your armor and like all the shit that makes you belong there. Because I wouldn't have had such a long run. I wouldn't have hit 1 billion views if I didn't like persevere for 10 years to get there.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to do all the shit and and struggle and wait for it to pay off.
No, I love that because I was like, I can definitely relate to that, and I think anyone else who's been like pushing away at something can certainly relate to that as well. And the thing that we often forget too about pursuing something that's non-conventional in terms of climbing a corporate ladder is it happens randomly. Like there's so many stories. There's like the guy that played like Gandalf, or he like not Gandalf. It was either him or the first Dumbledore. But he like started acting in his like late 60s and then got his first big break at like 71 because he just was the right person for that role at that time to play a old wizard with a long white beard. You know what I mean? So it's like as long as you're pushing away and you're enjoying the process, I don't like it's going to happen, in some form or another, as long as you're not stagnant with your process. Is there a moment where you
And
felt that, where you were kind of plateauing and then you had to change something up, be it like a routine or a style of video?
oh well, yeah, like the show's pretty stagnant this year. This year was my rest and reevaluate year. Because I've just done the same show for 10 years. So I'm like, the show keeps trucking on, the channel stays alive, it pays our bills. But this year was my reset year. Um, if that's the question you're going for.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, you just kind of like, I don't want to do Before They're Famous forever. Plus the
Mhm.
quality of like, I don't know, I'm getting older and like I don't really care about Ice Spice. Like
Yeah.
I did care about Cardi B, but that seemed a
But
little
she's
more
like old head now.
she's yeah, probably 5, 10 years younger than
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Ice Spice is too young for me to care. And I'm finding that like what made YouTube so great was there were no gatekeepers. And unfortunately, I can't say that is the case. So the hype is kind of missing that like independent virality. And
Hmm.
I'm having a hard time kind of navigating it. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out like what it is I want to do. Do I want to do it? Um, yeah, that's kind of been the year. And my wife
Yeah.
does YouTube as well, so she's pretty cool. She'll do the same videos for the rest of her life. She's happy with that. But me, I kind of want to like do something special, and I'm not feeling that magic anymore.
Mm. Do you feel like you are thinking too much about what it is you want to move into? Or you're kind of taking this time to reevaluate what it is that like drives that passion? Because I know for me, when COVID happened and comedy clubs were closed and I had just worked 9 years at doing stand up, it's such an awkward place to get cut off at, where it's like I'm not really headlining clubs, I haven't made a name for myself enough to tour, but I'm really good at, I'm like not really good, but I'm better at comedy than I was when I started. So I know that there's growth and improvement, and I've done longer sets, and now all of a sudden it's gone. It just doesn't exist anymore. And when I started making like music, I was like, oh, I felt that same kind of like, I want to work on this every single day. And I knew it might not be a thing that I do forever, but I knew for the time being until comedy clubs open again, I could do that. And it's going to drive that same creativity. I could be funny with the bars if I wanted to and still work out that muscle. And now, even when I get on stage, I feel like there's beats to my comedy. Like I can actually feel similar to a song. Like, okay, here's a setup, then here's the hook, and then here's a punchline. Do you
You're a
feel
true artist going from comedy to music. You love the arts, eh?
I love it all, man, because it's like if I've already went balls deep into one of them, what's going into the other one? Like I know it's not going to be great. Neither was my comedy when I started, but if it's something that I keep working at and trying to improve and obsess over, it's the obsession for me, I think. Like if you are obsessive over some type of art, you should chase whatever that feeling is, because it's like
Yeah.
it's a feeling I very rarely get. Maybe if I get really excited about a bit that I'm working on, I get that obsessive, got to work it out. Is there anything in your life that you're like obsessed over right now?
No, I'm so the closest thing the answer I could give you is that we're working on having a child, and then we're working on renovating the house. This year has been drywall and plaster and framing, whatever. But I
Mhm.
could see myself being like a Tool family influence, like a Tim the Tool Man dad on the internet, like
Yeah.
doing little skits with my wife. And that's something I could rock out for 10 more years because, it's like having your own sitcom on your phone.
Well, yeah.
That sounds probably challenging to most people. I could probably do that in my sleep. Um, so that's probably where things are probably gonna pivot. I hope Canadian Tire or Home Depot sees this and they sponsor the show so it makes
Let's
money.
go. Get
But
on
that's kind
that.
of where my head's going. But again, it's doing artsy stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm 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 going to be in front of the camera probably the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
I should take better care of myself.
I don't think I've ever heard of a home reno. Is there any home reno family channels? Like where the channel is just like you each have your characters. You're Tim, the tool man of the show, and it's just home reno. But it's going back to the comedy hip hop thing where I'm like, one hand does feed the other in this situation. One, you're creating new content that you're excited for. Two, you're actually getting stuff done in your house and renovating it. And then three, you're teaching your future child a valuable lesson of fix things when they're broken. So many people now, like something breaks, they throw it in the garbage and they replace it. And I'm like, just fix it. Try fixing it first.
You get a lot of fun pouring concrete and like doing these, and like something inherently about being a man is like I love a day's work of like getting dirty and doing something
Yeah.
like
Every
I
video
paint.
ends with you standing on the golf course. just just slowly sinking into old white man territory.
Yeah.
I heard someone say that once. They were like, they said some comic said that they were going to start getting into golfing. They're like, every time I drive by the golf course, I can just hear it like calling my name. I'm like, I don't think I'm at that age
Sure.
yet.
Yeah, I never really liked golf. It's
No,
too much hiking for me.
too much hygiene.
Like no hiking and
Oh, they
like
said too much
hiking.
hygiene. Yeah, you gotta get a
Everything's too much
cart.
hiking.
Yeah,
No, but even with the cart, like I'm like, oh, I gotta go because I suck, right? So I gotta walk all.
yeah. You gotta just drive on the cart and just like, was that polo? You just swing the club out and just hit it from the cart.
Yeah.
Mini putt.
All right, I know for me, there's you would be drinking, and then by the third hole, that would be like it would just became a day drinking. So then I would be like, this is too much drinking and walking.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. I'm too drunk for golf right now. Aside from the, red shape or red heart shaped tub, was there any other kind of like crazy purchases that you made in terms of like you're getting those first couple big YouTube checks and you're just like, I'm gonna I'm gonna get this ridiculous thing, but it meant something to you.
Well, my wife's engagement ring,
You're like,
that
this
was a
is
big one.
silly.
Yeah, I catch a glimmer of it each day. I guess so.
Nice.
She's happy. No, but just like, at 30, I moved out to like downtown Toronto, and I felt like fuck, man. I missed out on like that 22 to 30, like those years of like clubbing and all that kind of stuff. So getting a place, which then I think I was paying like $1,600, and now that would be like 6 grand, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, for sure.
So that was just really cool, and I was always very frugal. I don't entertainment industry is not, you can be hot now and done the next day. So it was always a big saver. But I leased nice cars. I had a couple Mustangs. We got a Bronco. So I drove around in some nice whips, but I always worked really hard too. I would always like do 8 hour days,
Mm.
trips. I can't believe how many places I got to in a few years. Like, fuck, I was like all over the world for a little bit. So, it was really good. To imagine going 10 years, never having to worry about like a bill, like all that kind of stuff you really take for granted. YouTube gave me quite tremendous success. I was very fortunate.
Yeah. Where's your favorite place that you've been?
I went to Boston when I first had money because it's kind of like the Ireland of America.
Yeah, I guess. New Ireland.
Fenway Park. Yeah, it was cool. Some kids spotted me the first time I was like famous or spotted on the streets. Lots of trips to LA. Vegas is like super cool, but now it's double the price. I've never been to Florida, New York City a bunch. Love New York City. Um, but yeah, Europe. I've done a bunch of Europe and stuff. I can't tell you where my favorite place is, but I love America.
Mm. So America's the spot for you.
Yeah, I like America.
Yeah.
I probably if I didn't get married, I probably would have moved to Vegas.
Interesting. You would have would you live out in the desert or near the strip?
A suburban house off the strip. I feel like the city just surrounds the strip. I
Yeah.
wouldn't live on the strip. I don't think I could. I'd only go there like once a month. But I think it's a great place to network and like all the stars come to, and there's lots going on.
That sphere looks amazing too. I just want to see a show there so bad. Have you seen the videos of that?
Yeah, I like the
Unbelievable.
I love the eyeballs creeping on people
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
room.
that's a nice touch. So like if we're gonna do it, we might as well put screens on the outside also.
Yeah,
Let the poors watching on also have fun.
yeah, it's cheeky. I like it.
Guarantee those tickets are not cheap.
No, it man. So we got married in Vegas, and I always went there because it was a cheap vacation. And I'm like, this place isn't cheap anymore. Like a meal and a drink's $50 US.
That's everywhere right now. It's just kind of fucked up, but I'll get off
Yeah.
of that for a second. When was your first fan encounter? I think is a very interesting story. Or do you have an interesting fan encounter story?
So yeah, there's no. Well, no, like I was famous and I didn't really know it, right?
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
like I would have kids like stalking me looking for jobs. So I'd like be at the gym, and I guess I would post where I'm going to the
Yeah.
gym. The kids would be like outside the gym, and like I'd be in my car. They would be like, "Yo, give me a job." And I was like, "Whoa!" Um, but yeah, Toronto famous really gave me a little buffer because the show was the most popular in LA, and people still like, "You made that in Canada?" It's a very Hollywood show. So I was more famous there, and like
Wow.
that's kind of why I would fly into the States and like put myself together. They don't need to see me, like having a freak out or
Yeah,
any of the
yeah.
problems that come with running a business. So that was it. I don't know. Kids would always stop me, and now more so because like the people that watch it are usually 10 years younger. So they're like, bro, you were like my George Stroumboulopoulos, my Rick the Temp.
Wow.
You get a lot of love. But sometimes like, what happened? You're like,
You're like, come on.
yeah, yeah,
You're like, just say nice to meet you.
yeah, yeah.
I had the most embarrassing first fan encounter possibly. I was just left my apartment downtown. I was literally wearing like sweatpants, like, a shirt that I just rolled out of bed in. like not dressed well at all. And I'm like in this little grocery store that's nearby my place. And I just needed a pack of bacon to make breakfast. So I'm just literally holding a pack of bacon. And as I'm at the counter, some kid off to my right just goes, "Are you Johnny Rogers?" And I was like, he goes, "I just watched you on Inform Overload." And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And that was it. That was the extent of it. I just went, "Yeah, that's me." And then I was like, "Well, have a good one." And just walked immediately out and into the store. And I was like, didn't think that was going to be how it went. Like you have in your head kind of like what fame is when you think of like celebrities and whatnot. And then you experience like a minor scale of that. And you're like, well, it's just weird. It's just people stopping you randomly.
That's another thing. Inform overload. I think when I left, it was like at 1 million or close to or
Yeah.
something. And like I never conceptualized that had made me famous. People
Yeah. Yeah.
pick that up. And I was just like, I'm hosting a show I don't really want to be hosting. But it had super diehard fans and fandom and all that. And I
Hmm.
was like just absent-minded about it. It just seems so, oh, it's Landon's business and I'm just doing what I need to do here.
Yeah.
That was fame as well. 30 million views a month and stuff.
Like I started on Top 10 Nerd and I had that same kind of like whatever, like it's just it's a cool job to me basically. Like it was this cool job that I found on a job website. And then to go to like Comic-Con and have like little kids like coming up to you being like, "I just watched your top 10 like Spider-Man versus whatever." I'm like, "Oh, that's weird." And then I have another one and another one and you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm like I'm known in this little." You're still like humbling it. I think in your own mind you're like, yeah, but it's because I'm around these people here. It's not because I'm famous. Like it sounds dirty to say almost.
Yeah. Well, you're like, man, I thought being famous would pay a little bit better.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I can't possibly be famous on this salary.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to the whole business and overhead thing that we probably both had no concept of how much shit costs.
I know. And yeah, and he just keeps growing his empire, right? So like every time I'm like, fuck, he knows something I can never wrap my head around because those shows that we were on that we like kind of poke fun at are still going.
Oh
And
yeah.
young kids, I like that's their YTV, that's
Hmm.
their, Space Channel, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
So it just crushes it.
Well, no, it's nice that they are like kind of cemented like that. It's cool too because like even like doing IO so much, I've had I got called a conspiracy theorist by Netflix. That was an interesting interaction with there. They took a clip of mine out of context and they put it in their documentary and they're like, the internet is rife with conspiracies. And then my dumb face pops up and I'm like, the plane was smoking and just reading off a script that I wrote about someone else saying this, but I'm just reporting it, right? But to them, they're like, this guy came up with this.
They didn't drop a tinfoil hat on you. You're lucky.
Yeah, that would have been great if they did some super edit. Have you had a clip taken out of context?
Oh,
Because the internet loves to
for
do that.
sure. For sure, dude. Oh man. But like, okay, I don't want to get too into it because it always
Sure.
comes up and it's not a good look for me or whatever. But like
Oh, then
I
don't bring
got
it up. Don't bring it up then.
no, but I have to talk about it. I something about my show got something going on with Hollywood because there's a lot of things were done to me that a lot of people wouldn't have to deal with. Like one day I woke up, both my channels were deleted. Um,
Fuck.
so I moved studios and I make a big announcement like we're hiring new people, we got this new space,
Yeah.
and the next day, Six Buzz and a bunch of websites are saying I've said the N word in the middle of Black Lives Matter, and like I've never figured out who put that story out there. And what I had
Jesus.
done was I said the name of an album which
Uh-huh.
had the word in it, but they just cut that word out, right? So you're like who is effing with
Yeah.
my life? And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
being famous, you're like, I don't feel like I'm famous enough for this kind of stuff, but it's crazy, man. There's some crazy stuff happens with mass media and
Jesus.
competition.
But
Yeah.
So you said you had both channels deleted. So did you find a way to get them back, or were you just like, well, I guess I have to restart and upload, archived content to get it moving again? Like, what was your game plan when that happened?
Oh my God, yeah. It was like 5 a.m. Some guy on my team was up early and he's like, "Where's the show, bro?" Um, I don't know. It was like some crypto scam stuff. A few other big
Oh,
channels fell for
I
the same thing.
remember that.
So, it's just like what the F, right? And maybe it just was like I opened up some junk mail stuff I shouldn't have. But I don't know. It feel like to me, I'm like, it
Feels
just
like
feels targeted.
sabotage.
It just feels like and then they went from my main channel to my wife's channel. I don't know. It just seems fishy to me. And that's another thing. You're like running a business. I'm doing payroll. I'm teaching people how to do what I do. And then you got like outside forces that don't even want you to exist. And you're like, dude, I'm just like a nice guy from Canada trying to be the next Dr. Phil.
Yeah. Fucking chill, bud. Did you just restart channels like from absolute scratch?
Oh, YouTube went
Okay, they
back.
saw it was scam, then they fixed it, and okay. I was gonna say, holy shit. Yeah, that's
But it's
a
like catching being HIV positive. Your audience is kind of like, oh,
I know there's
what's
medicine,
wrong?
but fuck.
Yeah.
God damn. Well, Mike, I'm gonna share your stuff here so that people watching on YouTube can go check you out. On YouTube, it's at Before They Were Famous, at Michael McCrudden, BTWF on TikTok. Also, go check out that family channel at the McCruddens and at Michael McCrudden, BTWF as well on Instagram. All those links are always in the description below. Mike, man, it was a pleasure chatting with you. I'm happy that you were able to make the time and come on the show.
All good, man. Nothing but love. I love supporting other Canadians trying to make it.
Oh yeah. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, everybody. And if you're listening on Apple, leave us a 5-star review. That always helps. Plus, if you want these episodes ad-free and before anyone else, you got to go to patreon.com/the Johnny Rogers. But until next time, stay classy. You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.